Welcome to the Onstage Podcast, where we deep dive into the power of music and entertainment. Glad you're here, everyone.
Me too.
Alaura Lovelight.
Hey, everyone.
Now I was about to say Alaura Love Sight, but
I've heard that before, and I'm like,
yeah.
it still goes with what we're talking about.
I'm so happy that you were able to join us today on the
Hey.
Onstage Podcast. Welcome.
Thank you.
I was just going to tell everyone that 100,000 people that your Grammy award-winning producers and #1 Billboard artists, like, you're excellent. I heard your song
Thank you.
EROTICY,
Yes.
which isn't actually a song that the title does not exist. EROTICY is not in any dictionary. It's not
That's
in
right.
Webster's. Should we get it in the Webster's?
We should. I would love that.
Now, probably people here don't know who you are. Can you give us a little bit of a backstory of who you are?
Sure. My name is Alaura Lovelight, and I am an R&B singer, producer, writer, engineer, all of the above. I do a lot of my own stuff. I do a lot of collaborating with other artists, and I've been doing music my whole life. I played the piano since I was 4, and so kind of was my destiny to do music. And I love it. I've loved it every step of the way. It's been a hard journey, but I'm really excited about what's unfolding for EROTICY. So yeah.
Where did you come up with that song? Like, was there another title for that song? Was it an original title?
Actually, yeah. I had done that beat. I had produced that beat a few years back, and I was in a writing session with Ray Rothschild, who is formerly Sugar Ray from the XX Posse, which they had a #1 Billboard hit. Not gonna be able to do it. And we were in a writing session, and he was just kind of asking me, like, what are you working on? What are you writing? What do you have? So we went through a bunch of different ideas. And we came, he's like, what about something else? And I was like, well, I have this other beat that I made a long time ago, which I did for practice for myself, just to see, can I make something like that? And so it was kind of tucked away. I hadn't played with it in a while. It was a different title, totally different song. But the kind of concept was the same. And he was like, yeah, that's it. And I was like, really? And he was like, yeah. And we totally redid the beat. We made it a little, like, hit a little bit harder with the bass. And then we did the song, and then we did the lyrics. And he was the one who initially was like, has this whole concept about the word eroticy, which is not a real word. But he's a brilliant songwriter. And so just a lot of really interesting kind of ideas about, let's do this whole concept of really sexy vibe without really saying anything too specific or too suggestive, or, we wanted it to be alluring and creative and sexy, but in a way that made you think and made you imagine, and, not in a very overt way. So I think that's what we did. Yeah.
That's great. So, Alaura, let me ask you, how does a song like that, how do you put that together? Like, is it expensive equipment? Does it cost $100,000 to buy, like, speakers and software?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say that there's a compensation between, like, talent in terms of understanding music from a technical standpoint. And then, there's a lot of programs out there that can do that for you nowadays. I'm very blessed that I have really studied music theory. So we really did the technical part of it. We didn't have tons of fancy equipment, not $100,000 for sure. But we used our knowledge, we used our creativity. Ray contributed his songwriting creativity, and we were able to really piece it together using our knowledge and not so much based on machines and on equipment, which is really cool. And not everybody can do that, which is awesome. So then we took it to a studio in New York, and we worked with a Grammy award-winning producer, and he is also brilliant. He helped engineer the project, and we all could it was a beautiful kind of melding of creativity, just really some brilliant minds. And we got it to a place that I'm really happy with. I'm really excited about. So it definitely requires, there's some level of expertise in terms of knowledge about music and knowledge about writing. And then there's some level of expertise, like our engineer and producer Don Chigro. He is brilliant, and he has a Grammy to prove it. So he used he contributed his mind, and yeah, it came out amazing. No, we didn't spend $100,000 on it, but I imagine that maybe you do have to spend more money if you don't have those experience. Like Don Chigro has been in the industry for, many, many years. So has Ray. Ray has been in the industry for many, many years. And I was kind of the rookie on the project, which is cool because they definitely challenged me to kind of level up my game. So
Yeah, I can imagine if the song "EROTICY"
yeah.
was written 20, 30 years ago, you'd have less electronic equipment and more like regular like pianos, and like you would have had to create like an acoustic version, or maybe kind of like an Elton John sound, or
Yeah.
maybe like an 80s. Like how would this song sound if you actually written it and released it in the 80s? Like how would it sound as an 80s song or
We
90s
would,
song?
yeah, it would have a different drum pattern for sure.
Yeah.
That's what changes a lot. But no, like I said, like because I made the beat originally, and so I was able to do it from a technical standpoint, to write the bass line and to write the piano line. And as much as like the wave of music nowadays is very technical and very computerized and digital, I that my background is classical music. I've studied music theory for many, many years. So that's where I write from. And not to say that that's better or worse, but that's my expertise. So that's where I kind of write from, to write an organic bass line and to write an organic piano line, because to me, that's the structure of a song in terms of like old school elements, 80s, 90s, before digital, before computers, before all of that. That's how people would piece together a song, and that's how I know how to do it. So that's how we did it.
So who wrote mostly the music to that song, "Eroticy"? Was it did you have any part in the music or just the lyrics?
I wrote all the music. Yep.
You wrote everything. Okay, even the lyrics as well?
Yeah. Ray and I wrote the lyrics together.
That's awesome.
That was like 100% right down the middle, 50-50 collaboration. We did it all together, all in like a few writing sessions. It was very, they say like a hit song comes out, it's very easy. It's very organic. It doesn't take a bunch of reworking and rewriting and all of that. And that's what happened with "Eroticy," is that we wrote it and stuck with it. We didn't really do a bunch of rewrites and all of that. So, which is cool.
Yeah, you might go viral one day. Imagine if like one day you're gonna be like up there with Britney Spears.
Maybe, I hope.
You're gonna have like Britney Spears calling on you. Let's do a duet.
That would be great. I would love that. I would be honored.
Yeah, who was the most famous musician that you performed with?
Oh, the most famous musician I
Yeah.
performed with? I
Or
have
sang with maybe, or harmonized with?
I got to participate in a writing session with Natalie Cole, which was really cool.
Oh, wow.
If you know Natalie Cole, Nat King Cole's daughter,
Mhm.
she is brilliant and talented and beautiful, and she's very tall, and she's like this kind of presence. That was really a neat experience. That was very early on in the music industry. And yeah, I think the people I'm working with right now are some of the best people that I've ever worked with. Ray has had the #1 hit. He has had multiple top 10 hits. And then, Don Chigro has also had lots of big records, and as well as the mixing engineer, who is a friend of mine, who I met at a conference a long time ago, a music conference. And I said, "Do you work with people like me?" And he has mixed massive records: Jay-Z, American Gangster, Fabulous. He's done tons of big records. So I am in great company.
What did you have a fear of, like, I think I heard that you used to actually be a singer and then you went into hiding for a bit and came out. Um,
Kind of, sort of. Yeah.
what was that reason that you would just suddenly say, "I want to sing again"? Or How did that
No,
work out?
I never had a feeling of I don't want to sing again. No, I couldn't do that. That's definitely like who I am. I couldn't not sing
That's
if I
good.
try if I tried. But I think that I had less of a like going into hiding and more of a restructuring everything. So like I did take a little bit of a break over the last 2 years, partly because of COVID, and partly because I just was like, it's time to kind of do a blank canvas and let's change the vibe and let's change the sound and let's change the look. And so in the last, COVID, of course, has had a huge effect on everybody, but for myself, it was actually great because it was like a very big opportunity for me to think about everything and say, when we come back into the world, which we will, and which we are now, who do I want to be as an artist? And that was a great opportunity for me.
And whatever made you want to be a R&B singer, not like an opera star or
I did
jazz
study
artist?
opera in college, which I didn't like. I was like, this is not for me. But yeah, R&B has always been my influence. I have always loved Whitney Houston and Lauryn Hill. Those are a lot of my big musical influences. So I don't know like if there's any one big thing that made me love R&B, but that's just kind of I guess jazz. Jazz has always been something I really loved, and jazz is kind of the mother of R&B. So jazz is still to this day, like when I cook, I'll put on jazz music. That's what I love, and so then I think my musical taste just developed. I always was really inspired by Whitney Houston. I really thought she was like so interesting and beautiful and effortless with her singing. And then I loved Lauryn Hill. Miseducation of Lauryn Hill is still one of my favorite records. I think it's probably one of my top 5 records that I love.
Is that the video with the large record spinning in this town? Remember that one?
Yep.
That was freaky. That scared me. I thought I was going to go outside and see this large record player just come up like.
Yep. So yeah, that's kind of what made me gravitate towards that type of music. It's just, it's always been the music that's been prominent in my life.
Yeah, I see that you have this courses for music lessons and songwriting, for music empowerment programs for teens.
I do,
Can you
yeah.
talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do a few courses. I do a course for teen girls, which I absolutely love doing. I teach teen girls how to kind of use music to enhance their confidence and build their self-love and life skills like public speaking. That's something that I didn't have as a kid. Two things as a kid. I didn't have a female mentor, which I never realized how detrimental that was to my career to not have a female influence. It is a very male dominated industry, which is just the facts. That's what it is. But I didn't know how important it was to have a woman who was advising me and mentoring me. And I didn't have that. And so that's partly why I mentor young girls, because I think it's so important. And I wish I had that. I think I would have made more progress faster had that been present. So I want to be able to do that for young girls. And then also, I was a shy kid. I was kind of like insecure. I was uncomfortable in my body. I just knew I was really good at music. And so a lot of the girls I work with they just remind me of myself. They are shy and they're not sure and they're a little bit uncomfortable and they're not super confident, but they just love music. And I see that music is such a vehicle for these young girls to find themselves. And it really was apparent to me when I started, coaching young girls. I was like, wow, this is about so much more than music. They're learning how to develop their voice. And yes, they're learning breathing techniques, but they're also learning how to not worry about what other people think and how to do something they love no matter what somebody says. And really important life lessons, I think, we all need. So that's the teen girls course is called Unseen to Queen. Anybody who has teen girls, I would love to work with. So I'm always open to that. And then the other course I do is that I teach adult creatives, musicians, writers, producers, publishers, book authors, all types of different creative people have come to me over the years and have said, how do you do what you do? And I'm like, well, and I started kind of teaching music, which I have a separate course called Make Music, Make Money, which teaches people how to make more money on live shows as an independent artist. But then a lot of people started to come to me and be like, well, I kind of know how to do that, but I don't really know how to be brave enough to put myself out there. And so that made me develop into a course called The Willing Creative, which I work with just anybody who's creative, who feels like they need some accountability to set goals and to work with somebody and break down limiting beliefs and things like that. Yeah. So yeah.
I like that idea. So that model, you have young teens to, what was that one again?
Unseen to Young Queen.
Unseen to Young Queen. That's excellent.
Thank you.
I saw, talking about Britney Spears again, she was singing when she was 13 years old.
Yeah.
And she was practically an unknown back then. Same with Christina Aguilera. And I found out later that they both were not only on Mickey Mouse Club, but they ended up being these famous singers as well.
Right.
Would you think something like that of today, a young Britney and a young Christina and all these others, do you think they could be helped by your program?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the whole point. That's definitely the purpose. I think that like people like Beyonce and Christina Aguilera and Britney Spears come from, people are like, wow, they're child stars, or they have such great careers right away. They have a massive support system behind them that either knows the industry or puts them in positions where with other people who know the industry, or things like that. So it's like, that's my goal for these young girls that I work with, is for them to know what it really takes, because it's a lot of hard work and it's a lot of time. It doesn't, we live in a stage and an age of viralness and overnight sensation, and but developing your craft and having, my thing for my own career was I always wanted longevity. I want to do this for the rest of my life. And if it takes me 10 years to get to that breaking point, but I can do it for the next 40 years, that's the goal. It wasn't to have a one-hit wonder and then I have to go find a job because I didn't develop my skills. I just had a hit. And then, so that's kind of what I want to teach these girls, is how to develop their skills, how to develop their craft, how to make it a lifestyle for them to go into. And that starts with knowledge. That starts with knowledge of the business. It starts with knowledge of music. It starts with knowledge of what your particular talent is, because just because you love to sing, it doesn't mean that that is necessarily your gift or what you're supposed to do. Maybe you're a really great teacher. Maybe you're a really great, maybe you're really great playing piano and you like to sing, but you're a better piano player. So it's like finding the right avenues where you can make the money and you can make a career and you can be happy. That's the goal.
And many of these young girls, do they actually come from abusive families, or are they just regular girls?
I would say
what's the youngest that you would have?
Yeah, they're all across the board, all types, all ethnicities, all background, all sexual orientation, all sorts of kids. I come across, most of the girls, I like to focus on teen girls. I work with teens, so like 13 to 17 is kind of my age bracket. They're very impressionable, but they're also at an age where they're finding themselves. And I find, much younger, anything younger than 12 is a little bit like they're not dealing with trying to find themselves yet. They're just still in that awesome stage of like, cool, life is awesome. And not worrying about what people think and all of those things. So, yeah, I work with everybody. I work with all types of kids, everything, from kids that come from rich families to kids that, come from a background where they're really struggling or they have to contribute. So yeah, I work with all, and honestly, it's all the same. The lessons are all the same for every type of kid, about loving themselves and finding confidence and learning how to speak confidently and make eye contact and all that. Yeah.
Can you describe what the first class is like?
Sure. Yeah. The first time I meet with a student, or if they come to Unseen to Young Queen, we do it by course. So it's like a 6-week program. So the first class is a lot of getting to know yourself and getting to know us, because you have to create a safe space in order for these kids to be vulnerable, to get to that place where they can change, right? So it's like, before I can dive in and say, okay, we're going to do this and you need to work on this and you're not confident and you're this and blah, blah, blah. Like, there's an awareness that you have to teach beforehand. And before you can even teach the awareness, you have to create a space where they can feel like they let their own guard down. I can't make them do that. So like, I have a student, Olivia, who I've coached for about 2 years. And when she started, she said to me, I'm really, really shy. I don't want to sing in front of you. And I was like,
Whoa.
That's what we're here to do. And so I said, okay, how about you turn around and I won't look at you? And she was like, okay. So for probably 3 whole lessons, 3 whole coaching sessions for an hour, she wouldn't look at me. She would face the wall. And you know what? I just pretend like it wasn't even a thing. I would talk to her with her back to me, like we're having a conversation right now. I just totally ignored it. And all of a sudden she kind of found this safe space of like, oh, it doesn't matter if I mess up. It doesn't matter if I don't do as good as I think I did. And I do something that I think is really important with all students, including adult students, and clients, that I call celebrates and creates. And so we do what's called a celebrate, and then a create, and then a celebrate. So we talk about something we think we did good, which I love doing with adults, because they're very quick to like not know how to acknowledge, hey, I did a good job at that. The kids are better at being like, I was really good at this. The adults are like, oh, you want me to say like something good about myself? And it's like, yeah, you did a good job on this, or this. And then it gives them a space to say, okay, let's talk about a create. And they'll say, okay, I could do this better. But they've already kind of prepped the minefield, so to speak, that they've put themselves in a state of, I did something good. So now this thing that I want to work on, I don't feel bad about it. I just want to work on it. There's a difference. And so that's a really interesting thing to do with the kids. And after I've worked with them for, Unseen to Queen is 6 weeks, and then they have an opportunity to go into private coaching after that. And after I've worked with the kids for like six or 7 weeks, after Unseen to Queen, they're quick. They're like, so my celebrate is this and my create is this. I'm like, okay. So yeah, that's really, it's cool to, like I said, it's cool to see with the creative adults too, because a lot of times, one of the first times I ask them that, they're like stumped. They're, oh, I guess I don't know what I did good. And I'm like, well, think about it, figure it out. And it takes them a little bit longer, but then you see people start to change their perspective of themselves, which is very cool, really cool.
Do they actually get a chance to sing at least, or do you just?
Yeah, of course.
And do they choose a song, or do you just teach them how to sing the song they chose, or do you have a certain song? Okay, this is a song you're going to learn.
Sure. Yes. So there's a few different things. Like when we do it as a group coaching course, they all kind of pick their own songs, and then we'll sing for each other, and then we'll do celebrates and creates together, which is really fun because it gives them an opportunity to be vulnerable in front of their friends or other girls they maybe don't even know. And it's neat to see them encourage each other and say, I think you did your breathing good. And I think, your articulation was really good. Especially when like it's the beginning and you feel like, I don't know what I did good. And it helps kind of coax that along. But so they'll choose their own song. And then I like to kind of let them, like I said, it's more important to me to create a space that they feel like they're learning and they feel like it's fun for them. That's what I want. I don't want it to be like, you're singing an aria from this opera. Like, and they don't want to do that. I think that's why I've stuck with music so long, is because all of my teachers kind of let me grow into the space that I wanted to. And it always made me want to practice and want to participate, because it was stuff I wanted to do. It was fun. It wasn't like, ugh. I remember in college, certain voice lessons, I had to sing German, and I hated it. Ugh. So I try to make a space for them to do that. And then I work my teaching into the cracks of, how do we breathe? How do we have an emotional connection? Who is the character of this song? Let's make it up, and kind of weave the lesson into that. Yeah.
Do you have any problem with the very first class that you have this little girl that comes in like 11 or 12, and she says, "I can't wait to sing EROTICY. Can I start singing it now?" And I'm like,
I
okay.
haven't had that experience yet. I can't wait for that to happen.
I can imagine what kind of talk you'd have with them. Excuse me, that's a little bit too.
Well, no, sometimes my nieces, they love to dance. But you know what? The thing about Eroticy that I love is that was the whole point. We did it in a way that it's supposed to make you feel confident, and it's supposed to make you feel beautiful. And anybody can do that. Any girl can do, the word eroticy, yes, is alluding to an adult, concept. But we don't say anything sexually explicit in the song. I don't even curse in the song. And so, when I see my nieces like dancing to the song and they like feel beautiful, and I think that's great. That's totally what I want from the song. So
How long do you think that video probably took? Probably days to do, I think.
well, the
switching?
no, actually we filmed the video in 24 hours,
Oh,
which
wow.
is crazy, and I probably wouldn't do that again. But the prep for it was like probably 6 weeks. I went to the studio and we recorded the song, and then very soon after we were like, well, now the song's done, we got to make the video. So I was like, okay. And then I actually ended up doing all the styling myself, which
Nice.
also I probably wouldn't do again. It's a lot of work. But yeah, we ended up breaking down the song and picking certain sections to do certain outfits, and we wanted certain colors to highlight, red for kind of fiery and sexy, and then the white and the black. So we kind of conceptualized the colors first. And then after the colors were conceptualized, it was like, okay, now I need to find a black outfit, which you would think is like, great, I know exactly what I'm looking for. It should be easy. It was not. It was a lot of going to different boutiques and malls and shopping and all sorts of things. But all the outfits I found, I was so thrilled with. I love all of them. And then the video shoot, we had 2 different locations. Actually, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different locations. 2 were planned, 3 were not planned. And then, yeah, I mean, that was literally a 24-hour shoot. I was up at 5 in the morning that day, and I
Wow.
think I went to bed at 4:45 or something, almost exactly 24 hours. That we were shooting, and we filmed from like hair and makeup from like 5 to 7, and then we got to the location at 8, and then we filmed and changed and makeup changed and hair changed and filmed again and changed and all that, and then we went to the next location and did it all over. Yeah, I learned so many things about that video. There's just like a lot of, you think it's going to take, we'll just do a costume change and it will take 20 minutes, and it's like, no, changing your hair and changing your makeup and changing your clothes. It's like an hour later, we were like, okay, it's time to get back to work. So yeah, but it came out amazing. I'm
Yeah,
very
and
happy.
that's why every movie always has the wardrobe scroll by, and it has to.
Yes.
You feel, wow, that person must have quite a job. How they make money? Like, how does that work?
For the Make Money, Make Music
That's
course.
right. Hmm.
Yes. So before I was really into my artistry, I guess always, before the revamps that we talked
Hmm.
about, I was gigging in bars pre-COVID, and I made a great career of it. I played a lot
Wow.
of different clubs. I played wine bars. I played jazz clubs. I played all sorts of venues, and there's a lot of misconception in the music industry about, oh, you have to have a million fans. You have to have a million followers on social media, and you have to have, $5,000 of fancy equipment and all of these things that are not true at all. And I know they're not true because I did it without all of those things.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's something that, I remember very distinctly. I had gone to play a brewery, and there was a band playing before me. And I knew how much I was making for the show. So I kind of assumed they were making something similar, maybe a little more because they were a whole band, but they were probably making, a similar amount. And I was looking at their equipment thinking, they had lights, they had speakers, they had all sorts of, it must have been $10,000 worth of equipment that they had brought on a trolley. And they did a great job, but it was like, the point to me, and maybe why I've gotten to the place that I've gotten, was it was always about strategy for me. It was way not about looking like this big, we have this big production, and more about, okay, if I'm getting paid $500 for the show, I should be spending $30 on my credit card, not $5,000 on my credit card. Right. So that's how I was able to do it as a full-time job, because I implemented a lot of strategy in what I was doing instead of buying the most expensive gear, buying the most whatever, and doing all of that. And so I got to a point where, people constantly ask me about music, and what I've done. And so I got to a point where I was like, a lot of people don't know how to do this because they don't understand the strategy that goes into it. They think, I go to open mic, I get asked to do a show because I'm kind of good, and I'll go do the show and I'll get a free drink and maybe make $100 and then go home. And then they wonder, like, why didn't I get asked back? Why didn't I make money after I paid for my food, paid for my drink, paid for my credit card? And it's like, wait a second, I owe $100 somehow. So it's like I ended up creating this course, which I really love and I think is very beneficial to anybody who wants to get into playing live music. Now, the caveat is that you do have to be able to play live, right? So it's like you could be an artist if you don't know how to play an instrument, or if you don't even have to be able to play an instrument, but you have to have 2 to 3 hours worth of music that you can play. I've seen people go and do covers for 2 hours, and they sit with a microphone, they have an iPad, they have some backing tracks, and they're phenomenal and they make a lot of money. So anybody can do it if you are dedicated to having a catalog of music. It doesn't even have to be original. Like, literally, you can do it with other people's music. So, I love that course. It's automated, so you can buy it on my website and you can go through it and you can take your time. You get to meet with me and we'll talk about what your goals are, and help you kind of get from where you're at to where you want to go. So, yeah.
We have that course actually listed in the links down below. Also, something about a call from you as well, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So with the course, you can, part of the course is that you get a monthly call with my team, and we'll kind of make sure you're on track with your goals. But then what had branched off of that course is what's called the Will and Creative. And that is an interactive course. So Make Money, Make Music is kind of something you can purchase, you can walk through yourself, you can take the time and develop the strategies and organize who you're going to reach out to, how you're going to book a show. And then we have a private Facebook community of other musicians that you can bounce ideas off of, and you can do a live stream and all of those. Then the Will and Creative is different, where it's a monthly meeting twice a month. It's actually a subscription. So you just pay a monthly fee where you get to be part of this exclusive Will and Creative group. And we meet twice a month. And it's a lot about call to action. I'm very much about, like, consistently, what are you doing? What is your goal? And how are you working to get there? And that is a number one thing that people come to me and they have a goal and they know they're here and they know they want to be here. And this in-between part is like really gray. And sometimes it has to do with the fact that they're not clear on what they need to do. And sometimes it has to do with the fact that they know what they need to do and they're too afraid to do it. And so in our monthly meeting, we break those down. And we talk about what is the limiting belief that you're, on my Instagram, actually, I post every week something about, the reason the course is titled The Willing Creative is because my understanding and belief is that you can't just be really creative and be really good at it. You have to be willing to do certain things if you want to put yourself out there. And if you want to do that for a career, or not even for a career, but as a hobby or anything, if you want to have success with writing or producing or with music, you have to be willing to hear the answer no. You have to be willing to do things that scare you. You have to be willing to hear constructive criticism. So we kind of break all of those down and we talk about what people are going through. And that one I really love too, because it's interactive. So it's kind of a group of creative people who, hey, I was feeling this. And, one of our girls last week was like scared about asking for a raise in her job that she's a singer, but she has a job and she wanted a raise, and we kind of broke it down and she asked for it and she got it. So,
wow.
Like working with people like on stuff like that, which I love.
You're inspirational. That's amazing. Is that, but I want to talk about the You Matter movement. I want to talk to you about, you are a two-time published writer with Addicted to Success. I noticed that 315 million visitors.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, but they're not all like singers or musicians, are they? Just regular people that might, how many of them do you think out of 315 million might actually have a good voice and might even
probably
some of them,
so.
yeah.
I had gotten into writing this year. I've always been a songwriter, but I ended up participating in another writing course. And I was like, actually, I'm really good at songwriting. Maybe I'm just a good writer in general. Let me try. So I'm really excited that I've really started to dive in on being a published writer as well. And I've had 3 articles to date with Addicted to Success. And then I've had a few other articles with women's magazines. So I just kind of, everything we're talking about, I go and I write, once in a while, people will ask me to write certain articles about certain topics. Sometimes it's about success. Sometimes it's about being a woman in the industry. Sometimes it's specifically about music. But I've done a lot of things. So it's fun to write about all these different experiences and how they've shaped me as a person. Yeah.
Don't you wish you had somebody like that when you were younger and they had an
Totally.
Alaura there too as well?
Yes, I do.
So now you get to help others because
I do, which I love.
I didn't have one, so now you have one. Let's, like
Yes.
there could be like a future Alauras there,
I
future
hope so.
Britney, future
Yeah.
Christinas,
Yes.
future Adele's maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'll remember
Definitely.
a woman named Alaura helping them out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that's definitely true, and we're in such a different wave of the music industry where I'm like at a point that, I can teach these girls how to do it as themselves. They, with the internet and with apps and with streaming and with social media and YouTube, if they have the proper tools, they can really propel their career on their own, which is amazing. I didn't have that opportunity.
Yeah. I noticed that this You Matter movement also is to use the music to empower, inspire youth. Do you ever get tired of doing it, that you just want your own little space, or do you just like, do you ever stop? I mean, like, I need a break.
What's funny? And like, no one's really ever asked me, do you get tired of it? But I have this little moment sometimes before a show or before a meeting or before working with my clients and doing coaching, where I'm like, I'd rather just stay in my pajamas. I'd rather just read a book and write an article and drink my coffee. And then you know what? The most beautiful thing happens where I like meet with people like you,
Mhm.
or I'll meet with my girls and I'm like, oh yeah, I love doing this. I just love it. I love working with people. I love having great conversations. I love being in the studio. I really love everything that I'm doing. And so, yes, it gets tiring. Yes, I get exhausted. Yes, there's 24-hour days. But really at the end of the day, I always feel like, wow, that's really cool. That's
Yeah.
my life, you know?
Yeah, and then there's walks you take along, maybe if you have a dog or cat, or just do other things that are totally non-musical,
Yes.
just like hobbies or doing
Really
like
important.
it is.
Yes.
'Cause
Yep.
we have something like that at work called, work disconnect, where we're told to shut everything down
Oh,
and just
cool.
go for a walk or whatever. Fridays is usually, meetings where we're actually just talking about other things, not work, and that
Cool.
might be a half an hour. Um, and then there was a one time when it's like I, just shut my computer right down and I did
Awesome.
something else. But, because of the COVID, can't say that, because of the pandemic, yeah, everything's different now. It's like, what is it? You have Unseen Young Queen. We have New Day, New Day, New Days, New Ways or something, because we're all doing
Cool.
something different. We're all
Yes.
we're working from home. I work from home.
Yeah, and I think that that's something that people have struggled with, myself
Mhm.
included, is when, we're all from home now and it's like you can constantly work. There's always something to do. I said to my assistant, I was like, it feels like laundry. There's like always something to do. Even when I feel like I did all my tasks, it's like there's another email to send. But I read a really great book this month called Atomic Habits by James
Oh,
Clear, which
mhm.
is I put on my website because I always put like the books and stuff that I'm reading up because I want people constantly ask me, what do you do? Or what's your morning routine? Or what. So I try to always share those things, or you can find it anywhere. But I had read it and it talks about when you're working from home, making sure that where you work is your workspace, and where you write your music is your music space, and where you sleep is where you sleep,
Hmm.
and not really mixing them because it's programming your brain in a way that this is where I work. So when I come to work, I go into my office and I sit at my table, and that's where my computer is, and my cup of coffee, and that's where I type emails and I respond and I talk to my assistant and have Zoom meetings and do coaching and all of that stuff. I really try to make a conscious effort to not do work in front of the TV, not do work in bed, not bring my laptop to bed. Yes, and it has made a very big difference for me because I was getting to a point where EROTICY is taking off in the most incredible way that I'm
Mm.
so thankful for. But I was getting so overwhelmed, like so many people on my Instagram, so many people on my inbox, so many people calling me and texting me and emailing me and commenting. And it's like, how do I make sure people feel connected and I saw it and I appreciate them and all of that? And so I was like, okay, this is where I do this. This is what I
Hmm.
need to do. Boom, 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 boom. Now it's time to spend time with, my family, or now it's time for bed, and now it's time for meditation. And that's where I do that. And it's helped a lot. It has
That's
helped a lot.
inspirational. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
I encourage everybody to try to implement that,
I
especially
think
in
I
this day and
will.
age we're living in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I know that I have the TV, I have the bed and everything all in one room. So how am I going to separate that with a small 665, how 665 cubic meter apartment space?
Well,
Really
and that's
small.
something they talk about in the book. They talk about if you live in New York City in a shoebox, and I was like, that's me. Um, but they were like, if you have a very small space, this corner is for this. This corner is for this. This corner is for this.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
yeah. So they really break it down. Like, you don't need to have a room for all of those things. You need to have a space for all of those things.
But so is singing something that you wanted to do when you were growing up, or did you want to be something totally different? Like little girl would probably want to be like a doctor, a little boy would probably want to be like, I want to be an astronaut when I was 8, I wanted to be a doctor in a spaceship.
Nice.
Why? Because
Twofold.
Dr. McCoy on Star Trek. I wanted to be Dr. McCoy.
Cool. Definitely.
And I work for the government, which is even a good job. I'm more like, an astronaut for the courts.
There you go. That's neat.
But I do sing on the side, and I I was part of a men's group as well at the church. But
Cool.
how about you? So do you ever sing with others, or is it just you? Is it just Alaura, or is Alaura and the?
Usually it's just me.
Mhm,
I always have a band because I love to have a band, and I think it gives, again, that humanness of like, it's very hard to be on a stage completely by yourself.
mhm,
That's a lot of energy for you to harness and control in the room by yourself. And if I have people on stage with me, I can kind of play off of them. And it also makes me feel like it's not that serious. If it's just me, it feels like all eyes are on you. And, I have some really great people that I work with. JJ Sorensen of Molly McGuire's. He's been my guitarist for a very long time, and we're childhood friends, and we just have a ball on stage. And I have some other players in LA and in on the East Coast that I love to work with. They're very fun. I'm hoping to do more work with other artists. Ray is kind of the first person that I've really done a song with start to finish, like 100% as a collaboration. I had made the beat before him, it was already done, but we restructured it together, and then we wrote the song together, and then we collaborated with Don Chigro. And so I was like, wow, it's fun to do it by myself because I can do a lot of the elements, but that creative energy of other people is you can't do. It's just completely something you can't do by yourself.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
What if one of your students is in perfect harmony with you? Would you
Yes.
consider doing a duet with them or working with them in your future? Or
Totally. Yeah.
yeah,
I would say in the next 5 years, I would love to see my girls put out their own music on
nice.
like I'm an artist, but my company is Lovelight Sound Music, and we're a music company with courses and all of that. So I would love to see other artists put out music under Lovelight Sound and help them do that on their own. And I'd be happy to work with anybody that I think works really hard and loves their music and has something to say. I'm happy to work with. Yeah,
How did you find Love Light Sound? You mind me asking?
I made it myself.
So that's your own company.
Yeah. Yep.
That's excellent. Wow.
Thank
Got a
you.
real live owner of that sound company. That's excellent.
Thank
That's great. So
you.
you can do whatever you want with that.
Yeah, definitely. Lovelight Sound Music was established in 2018, and it was originally the Lovelight Sound translation.
Mhm.
And we have kind of since broken it down to just be music. But yeah, I established it in 2018. That's when You Matter kind of was also established when we did You Matter, the music video and the song. Is that around that time was when everything kind of came to fruition. I had done an album prior in 2018, and it was under a different name and it was under a different sound, different look. But You Matter was on that record, and I wanted to put that record out independently. So I had decided I would establish Love Light Sound Music, and then it became its own entity of courses and workshops and all sorts of things that I think I realized over the last year or two that you know I love to be an artist, and I love to sing, and I love to connect with people, but I also like to teach, and I'm really good at it.
Oh,
And
wow.
I like to work with, there's kind of this stigma in the music industry, like if you do other things, then you're not doing your artistry, or some
Mhm.
kind of that. I always felt like that. Maybe that's not really a thing, but I got to this space where I was like, why wouldn't I do these other things? Yes, I'm a great artist, but I'm also a great coach, and I'm also a great mentor. Maybe that's my calling too. And why would I not do that for fear of what it might do to this part of my career?
I don't know if I forgot any other question. I think I might have dug deep down into your life.
You did good. You did thorough. That was thorough.
I don't know if I asked you about relationships or
yeah, right.
ex-boyfriends or
Nah, you can listen for that on the album.
if you were a grave digger at some point.
No, never did that. I did work for a filing trucking company. I've had every job you could imagine. Thank you.
Really appreciate this time with you, Alaura, and I hope that we can have another podcast some point in the near future. You were excellent. You're so inspirational.
Thank you.
And I enjoyed this just as much as I hope everyone else did. So,
awesome.
Well, excellent. Thank you very much, Alaura.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome. So have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. So I'm going to end this broadcast. So in the meantime, let's both say bye.